into our session. I hope everyone had a good lunch and now is ready to participate, because this is going to be a participatory session. As you've already heard, I'm Mishka Jain. I'm a research associate at Digital Futures Lab, and I'm joined by Shidra Sen, who's a research manager at Digital Futures Lab. DFL is a research organization that works at the intersection of technology and society. We're based out of Goa, and we work on a myriad topics, including responsible AI, which is what we're going to be talking to you about today. As you can see, the session's name is Co-Creating Principles, so we are going to be making you do the work as well. I want to start with introducing you to RAIL. RAIL is the Responsible AI Impact Lab. This is a first of its kind initiative that DFL has launched this year. And basically, the lab is trying to translate global responsible AI principles into practice for organizations in India. And the main thing that we want to do with this lab is to ensure that responsible AI principles are inculcated into the AI lifecycle throughout the AI lifecycle. We don't want to retrofit responsible AI principles. We want them to be there when the people who are developing AI initiatives are talking about it, are planning about it, are developing it, and are deploying it. So it's a very important thing for us that throughout the AI life cycle, people look at how responsible AI principles can be inculcated. The lab aims to support government organizations, businesses, social impact organizations, funding agencies in understanding how responsible AI can be effectuated in the country. And essentially what we want to do is develop long-term capacities for responsible AI in India. Some of the methods through which RAIL hopes to do this and provide capacity strengthening, capacity support is one, instructional modules on responsible AI, essentially how to do it. It's very easy to talk in theory, but we do want to tell people that this is how you effectuate it. So that is one of the things that we want to do by creating instructional modules. We're also going to be providing advisory services to organizations who reach out to us as to this is the specific problem that we're dealing with regard to data or how to talk to people about AI, and we want to then provide them specific advice. We also hope to do peer learning workshops where people who are developing AI in India come together and talk to each other about what their experience has been like, what are the struggles that they are facing, so that all of them can learn from each other. We hope to create an online resource hub, and we hope to create knowledge tools that help in essentially making the organizations understand how to do this, and also how they can make the people that are going to be using their AI tools understand what AI is. What we did this year is the RAIL Fellowship 2024. This is a fellowship program that ran from July to November 2024. Essentially, it is a capacity strengthening program for organizations who are working on social impact issues. And the aim was to help them understand how they can action responsible AI principles in the real world. We had 14 organizations participating this time, including Digital Empowerment Foundation. We had UNICEF, Arman, Digital Green, Agami. You may have heard of some of these organizations. And this is a photo from the workshop that we did in Goa with all of us. What we aim to do out of this workshop, out of the entire program, I've already talked about, but we also want to produce a specific output, which is this practice playbook on responsible AI. What this playbook will be is essentially a set of recommendations for organizations who are aiming to use AI and how they can be thinking about responsible AI principles at every stage of the development. The playbook has been developed on the basis of existing scholarship, but also based on the experiences shared during the fellowship and by mentors that we had to talk to the fellows and as well as the fellows themselves. What we want is that the playbook is a resource for the fellows this year, but also moving forward, it becomes a resource for all organizations working on AI issues in India. Um, how it works is, like I said, it uses the AI life cycle as the basis to provide recommendations. So essentially, when you're thinking about that maybe I can use AI to solve this issue. From that moment to the time you actually deploy your AI solution, throughout that life cycle, what can you do to ensure that responsible AI principles are being followed? The key tenets of this playbook, of course, include transparency, accountability, gender intentional design, which is a very important thing, and another very important thing is data quality and data protection. An important thing also is to ensure that all these organizations are thinking about the end user. A lot of times what happens is organizations develop solutions, but they don't think if the end user actually wants them. So it is very important that the end user be centered when these solutions are being developed. The playbook will be a living document which will be updated for each cohort. We are in the process of developing one for the 2024 cohort, and we hope to keep updating it based on our experience over the coming years. Now I want to invite Shija to talk about the playbook. She's going to tell you about the outline of the playbook and also specifically talk to you about two of the highlighted themes.
Thanks, Anushka. I'm going to sit here because I have my notes here, so I hope that's fine. I have the very difficult task of talking through the playbook. So sometimes I might use a word which might be too jargony. If you don't understand, please ask. But maybe after I finish the sentence, otherwise I might forget what I'm saying. So we'll take a look at the different themes that the playbook covers. A couple of these are highlighted, and like Anushka mentioned, we're going to talk about them in more detail. So we thought of these themes from the perspective of the AI development life cycle. That is, planning an AI intervention, developing the AI system, and then deploying it. So within this framework is how we've kind of emerged with these 6 themes. So we have first the strategy and operations planning, which looks at everything that needs to be done when planning to incorporate AI or introduce an AI-based system by a social impact organization. So for example, one of the things in the playbook that we start with is an assessment of whether a project should have AI at all. We consider questions like, what is the problem that we want to address and why is it important to solve it? And is AI a feasible solution for this problem? Then something that I think Anushka already covered is gender intentional design. So the idea is that we create an understanding that the design of an AI intervention should consider access and usability by all genders and potential gendered impact on users from the get-go and not at a later stage. Then we have addressing bias. I think we heard a little bit about bias in the previous lightning talk as well. I think it's key to remember that AI systems are trained on data sets and can imbibe those biases that these data sets carry. So a key feature of thinking and responsibility in building AI interventions is to then think about how that bias can be addressed. Setting up evaluation systems for the AI intervention, conducting audits. These are some ways to check how, whether or not these biases are showing up and what we can do to sort of address that. Then we have responsible data practices, which is, data is a very important piece of the AI puzzle, and so needs to be handled in legal and responsible ways. So I'll talk about more about this later. Then we have understanding the end user. Again, something that Anushka mentioned, and I think we heard Siddharth as well, that we need to think about the needs and the understanding of the core concerns of the end user before we start to develop a solution or something that we want to build. So if we build something, we want people to use it, People will only use it if they need it, right? So that's the primary lens that we should have while thinking about like building an AI solution. And then the sub theme under that is like designing for the invisible, which talks about centering the user at the core of your design and ensuring that this design of your intervention is simple and relatable. Then we have critical AI literacy, where we focus on what should be kept in mind when informing users about AI systems. We'll also talk about this at a later stage. Finally, the playbook talks about deploying at scale and how to plan for that. While we test our AI systems in small controlled settings, they may not work the same way when launched in multiple states and districts. So, finding expert help in the sector, partners who can support in that endeavor, focusing on one element to scale first. These are some of the things that the playbook discusses. If we go to the next slide. So now I'll talk a little bit about responsible data practices and what that even means for us. For us, responsible data practices is two way of looking at it. One is the, of course, legal and compliance bit, which is ensuring that social impact organizations incorporate these legal baselines, compliance baselines within their functioning. But there's also considerations around data quality and curation, ensuring that the right kind of data is available for building a particular AI intervention so that the system can be accurate and responsive to the needs of the end users, right? So we have looked at the playbook looks at these following stages: planning, collection, model training, and what happens after deployment, and what kind of data practices one needs to incorporate so that we can meet that level of responsibility, which is not just the legal compliance bit, which should be the floor, but also like going above and beyond that. So the playbook goes into what is needed at the planning stage, that is thinking about the kind of data that is needed for a specific intervention being built, establishing policies that will govern this data. For example, what happens when you're collecting data, what happens when you're processing that data, how are you storing that data, how are you sharing that data, are there policies within your organizations, and does everybody know about it? Then at the stage of data collection, which is a pre-deployment collection we're talking about, we talk about using some of these policies in practice, ensuring that we have informed consent of the people when we collect their data and they know the purpose for which it will be used. It is also to ensure that people, the organizations that collect this data do not go beyond that specified purpose, right? That's the purpose limitation thing that we talk about. Then when this data is stored and shared within the organization and external vendors, are there passwords, encryptions to ensure that this data remains secure? And then we're talking about like very sensitive personal data that comes in, because social impact organizations talk about try to address problems that are really core, right? So we need to be really concerned about these questions. So then the playbook also talks about risk mitigation and creating a plan to address it. So within this section, we talk about how to identify risk, what is the likelihood of that risk occurring, and then establishing a plan to sort of mitigate it. How do you mitigate it? You can have like an emergency response system, an emergency response team that can help when there's a data breach, etc. And finally, there's also the question of value transfer. Who gets the value of the data when someone provides you the data and then you use it for some purpose? How does that value get transferred back to them? So this is a question that is most often not answered, and I think we also raise this question within the playbook as well. So now for the critical AI literacy piece, the playbook looks at it from two perspectives. One on the planning and scoping of these programs, and then the design of the literacy program itself. The one key theme from this section, and I think for the last hour or so, has been to understand the context of the end user and to design literacy programs with that in mind. it is important to think about what systems people are familiar with. For example, if people are familiar with YouTube and WhatsApp, it is helpful to use those platforms to deliver certain kinds of information because they don't have to learn something to learn something. Then literacy programs for AI must tell end users about both the positives and the negatives of, or the benefits or the harms of AI programs. You can't just tell them about the benefits, but also not just create like a very negative sort of situation, right? So you have to make sure that you tell them both sides of the picture. And then it's also useful to have like games and quizzes that can help people understand various aspects of AI. We've already found some games that are in the playbook that can help understand things like how do AI capabilities work, how does AI categorize things, and so on. And finally, I think while I was preparing for this, I realized that there are very obvious overlaps between critical AI literacy and also responsible data practices, right? Like people have to understand what AI is and what some data is going to be used for to actually be able to give consent in its true form. So that overlap is also something that's interesting, and you can also see that overlap across the 6 themes that we've created in the playbook and once launched and socialized. Maybe if you look at it, you will see that too. That's it from me. I will hand it back to Anushka.
Thank you, Shija. Thank you so much. That was really helpful. I hope people got an idea of what we're trying to do and what the fellowship is about and what the playbook is about. Now, like I said, we do want to work on something together. It's a very simple exercise. We're not going to ask too much of you. So what we're going to do is, this is a scenario that I want you to look at. And once you've taken a look at the profile of the organization, what they're trying to do, why are they using AI, and what are their considerations, what we're going to do is we're going to split the room into 2 groups. And one group is going to work on essentially what are the 5 key things that should be there in this organization's data policy. And this side of the room is going to work on what are the 5 key things that they should be thinking about when it comes to critical AI literacy. So I can walk you through the organization. The organization is called Meri Sakhi. It's a not-for-profit organization, and what it aims to do is improve women's health outcomes through education, awareness, advocacy, access to healthcare services. They specifically focus on issues like reproductive health, maternal care, nutrition, and wellness. This is an extremely common use case. A lot of organizations who are working in the social impact sector are trying to develop something along these lines. And what essentially this organization wants to do is they want to improve health outcomes for women by allowing them to make informed decisions about their health. And why now they're going for an AI chatbot is because the health system in the country is overburdened. There are more people seeking healthcare than there are people who are able to provide healthcare, right? So the community health workers in the country, like ASHA workers, which I guess all of you may be aware of, they are extremely overburdened. One way to improve health outcomes in the country is to at least make information available to users who are trying to seek it, and not put that burden on ASHA workers. And this can be preliminary information. It can be as simple as I did not get my period. Am I pregnant? Or something along those lines. Like which is something simple. Like I want to know more about what happens during a pregnancy. So it does not even need to be something that they need the input of a nurse or a doctor, but it's just something that they want to educate themselves about, which is also a very big need. So now, because of this mismatch in the number of people seeking healthcare and the people able to provide it, there is an opportunity for an AI chatbot here, where the organization wants to create an AI chatbot which will help people get this information, and they want to aid community health workers in providing this information, and they want to provide customized information. Now here, what happens in a lot of situations is that how a person talks differs from district to district in this country, right? So, for example, how a woman in urban slum in Mumbai will frame a question differs a lot from how a woman living in Lucknow will frame the same question. So there is need for customization, and they are trying to do that. We don't need to get into that because it will create a lot of confusion. So just keep in mind that this is basically what the organization is trying to do. The considerations are, of course, that they have limited funding available. They want to upgrade their data collection, processing, and storage policies. Keep in mind that health data is sensitive personal data. When we talk about the health data of women related to their reproductive health, even more sensitive. And this organization caters to a varied group of women who do not really understand technology. They don't know how internet works, how the phone works, how AI works. They do not have any understanding. So in this situation, what should Meri Sakhi do? So now it's 3:20 right now. We have time till 4:04, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 30 minutes to discuss within the group as to what should be the 5 key features. So this is group 1 and this is group 2. Maybe some people from this side can move over to this side so that there's an equal number of people. And then if both the groups can select one person who can come and tell us what the 5 key features will be. Come on.
Are you all clear on the ask?
Yeah, is there any question about what you have to do?
Can we add features for that Meri Sakhi? Can we suggest features?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, basically what you have to do is what should be there in the policy and what should be there in the curriculum. You have to tell us just that. So, people who are in the group, please come together.
Please discuss.
And please select one person who's going to talk. Come here and tell us what you've discussed. So, yeah, I'm going to give you 30 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
Here, the women in urban areas are pretty much familiar with it. The women in rural areas are familiar with technology itself.
I think it's important also at that stage because you may be coming from a point of more understanding the co-creation.
I think both the groups are done. We have 10 minutes left for this session. So I was thinking what we can do is 5 minutes for each group just to share what they have discussed. If there are any questions, maybe you guys can ask each other. So yeah, I'm going to invite this group first. Don't worry about it. It's completely chill.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, I'm Swarnarika. I'm studying in Vagdevi College, BTech second year. And as our group has discussed, and the key features which we wanted to include in the chatbot are so that create a language, a simple language to communicate with the local people. So as we wanted to be in the villages, they always want a simple language to be known. So a simple language, the chatbot to be communicated, and it should also give a visual creation and demonstrating so that they can understand what they are going to face and knowing the limitations of what is going to happen if they are going to treat their problems in a wrong way. So there have to be a visual creation and also probably a demonstrating session even. And also there must be interactive sessions between the users and also the people who are creating the chatbot, so that they will be even teach them or tell them how the chatbot is going to work and what will be the key features of the chatbot if they use, and what will be the uses, and how it's going to be work, and how it will be very useful for the users if they are going to use this chatbot. And the chatbot has to be in a way so that as the chatbot we are going to create is for the local or the villages or the rural people. Usually rural people have a lot of beliefs like their personal beliefs or religious beliefs, so that the chatbot which we are going to create is regarding the personal problems of a woman. So it should not destroy, or it should as they have a lot of trust issues, so we have to make a bridge regarding it, and so that they don't lose their beliefs, and also they'll trust the app even, I mean the chatbot even. So the chatbot has to be in that way, and they should, as they have the trust issues, it should also have a privacy protection, so that they'll get to know that even if we are sharing a personal information, also the information which they are sharing in the chatbot is secure and it's not going to get leaked or anywhere, so that they'll trust the chatbot and they'll be able to share their problems freely in the chatbot even. And the language or the problems, as an example, if there is a small problem we are going to discuss, without giving a large information or large discussion on the problem, it should not be a scary. The answer shouldn't be scary, and it should be simple, and it has to be very well explained to the user, like according to their language, and not just by leaving the answers, or not just by leaving. There has to be a follow-up questions also, if you want to talk more about it, or if you have any other problems, or any other more symptoms which are there regarding the problem, so that if there are any other questions, or if they want to share anything also, by knowing this follow-up questions, they can even more discuss about it and get free using the chatbot. And the other feature is by knowing the several symptoms and providing the follow-up questions, we'll get more information about the problem, so that if there are any local hospitals or the doctors which are treating them, if we are going to provide the information in the chatbot regarding those hospitals and the doctors, so that they will be consulting them, and it will be easy for them to go and get their medical checkups even. So this might be helpful, and these are the features we will discuss. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a very good summary. If anybody wants to speak as well, if she missed out on anything that you discussed, if you want to talk about a point, feel free. Otherwise, we're just going to go to the next group. So, from the next group, who's going to speak? So this group was working on responsible data practices for Meri Sakhi, essentially developing what their data policy should look like.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Myself Mahesh. I'm currently pursuing Masters in Security and Defense Law from Nalsar College. There are a couple of things that we came up with. One was mainly focused on three things we were asked to focus on. One was like data collection, data processing, and data storage. And apart, we added two more things to it. One is like how do we develop the things? What are the parameters or principles? How do we develop the system? And the another thing is how do we follow up it? Like how do you do the auditing, monitoring, evaluation, and all? And lastly, we also thought about to what can be the other benefits you can use the particular data. So I'll start with the data collection thing. So there are a couple of things we came up with. One is we're going to collect the diverse amount of data so that the data won't be biased. the system won't have certain biases and all. And another thing is there should be the transparency. So you're going to have the consent form and everything while you're collecting the data. And lastly, in regard to this reproductive health, pregnancy related and maternal care, there's a lots of indigenous wisdom, and our teammates came up with the midwives in India having lots of information about the reproductive health and maternal care. And so we tend to have that information feed into the system, so that when we speak to the chatbots, this wisdom also flows to the user. That's we came up with. And when we get to the processing, and one thing where was key is related to the proportionality, to what extent you wanted to process it, and what after processing that particular data, where do you want to use it. So what usually happens with this chatbot is you process the data and you have the context and history of the particular user. That usually helps us to customize the information from the chatbot. So in the pregnancy related thing and everything, you need to have the history of the particular user. So that's one thing. But if you process it to the extent, there is a scope that this company data can be misused by the other organizations, the pharma companies or the multinational companies who are eagerly waiting to tap these benefits from the data and sell their own products, sell their own schemes and everything. So we wanted to find a balance where you're able to customize the particular thing and also make sure that doesn't get misused. And another interesting thing that we came up was to keep, if you're able to process this thing and with the right intention, if you're able to share it with the policymakers or the people who are working in the research field or the not-for-profit organizations, it may help them to devise a better policies or refine certain strategies of the other companies who are working in the particular space. So here the feedback loop, that the information that you get from the user feeds to the system, and that system evolves and that it gives the better thing. The feedback loops, which we all know is obviously there. And lastly, it's the storage thing. So we intend to not to get into the trap of storing it in the cloud, and so it has its own cost. As we are told, the organization is already deficient in resources and all. So in that, our teammate came up with using that free open source algorithms that are already available in the market. So certain things are already built, you pick up certain things and add this to, so that way you can do the cost cutting also and make the better kind of chatbot thing. And another, lastly one, this is the last point. And the one thing you're concerned about, we wanted to get the thing done, data audit kind of thing, so that the data can't be misused. So we wanted third party to do the regular auditing of the data, and so that the particular data can be used for the stated purposes and all. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
I think both the groups had a very interesting discussion. I hope our session was able to help you understand what issues we need to be thinking about, especially as AI becomes more and more inculcated into our society. And yeah, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. Thank you so much. Have a great day.